The night was silent, but inside the abandoned research facility, the silence felt heavy. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath, dust floated in the air. Tiny specks shining under the faint glow of broken ceiling lights. The young engineer Daniel walked carefully through the dark hall, his boots echoing with each step. He was not supposed to be here, not at this hour, not alone. But curiosity had pulled him deeper into the shadows of the forgotten building, and something inside whispered that he was about to discover something important. Daniel adjusted the small flashlight on his shoulder, the beam cutting through the dark. Old signs were hanging on the walls. Their letters faded and cracked. Biological research, authorized staff only. Broken glass crunched under his shoes. Wires dangled from the ceiling. Everything looked dead, abandoned for years. Yet somehow it felt alive, as if something was waiting in the dark. He told himself it was only his imagination. But then, suddenly, he froze. A sound reached him soft, weak, almost like a whisper. It was not the wind, not the crack of metal, not the hum of broken machines. It was a voice, and it was calling to him. "Open the door, human, free me," the voice said, trembling, desperate. Daniel's heart jumped. His mouth went dry. He turned his flashlight quickly, scanning the hall. "Who's there?" He shouted, his voice shaking. No answer came, only silence, then again. "Softer, please, human. Open the door." Daniel felt the hair on his arms rise. The voice was not human. He could feel it. Oh, it carried a strange echo, like two tones mixed into one, part human, part something else, something unearthly. He swallowed hard. His instincts told him to run, but his curiosity was stronger. Step by step, he followed the voice deeper into the building. The hall narrowed, and at the end, hidden in the shadows, stood a heavy steel door. The paint was peeling. The number? Seat 1E7 scratched across it, and from behind that door came the whisper again. "Free me, human. They locked me away. Please." Daniel touched the cold metal, his fingers trembling. He leaned closer, listening. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low. A pause. Then the answer came, soft but clear. "I am not your enemy. I was taken, trapped for my blood, for what I carry inside. If you leave me here, I will die. But if you open the door, I will show you the truth." Daniel stepped back, his mind racing. What was behind this door? Was this some experiment left behind when the lab was shut down? Why was she calling him a human? Why not anyone else? He remembered the rumors about this place. They said the scientists here were working on something dangerous, something not human. The government shut the project down, but no one ever explained why. Some said it was because the experiments failed. Others said it was because they succeeded. Daniel's flashlight flickered, as if warning him. His breathing grew heavier, his hands damp with sweat. Everything inside screamed at him to leave, yet the voice pulled him closer. He pressed his ear against the door, and the sound of breathing reached him, faint but real. She was alive. "Whoever she was, I can't trust you," Daniel whispered. "You could be dangerous. You could be lying." The voice came again, stronger this time. "I am dangerous." "Yes, but not to you, human. They wanted my DNA. They wanted to cut it out of me, to use me. But I never wanted to harm your kind. I only wanted to be free." Daniel's heart pounded. His flashlight caught something on the wall, a small panel. With wires and an old keypad, this was the lock control for the chamber. If he pressed the right sequence, the door might open. He lifted his hand but stopped midway. Could he really do this? What if the stories were true? What if the creature inside was too dangerous? But then again, why would she beg for freedom if she only wanted death? The sound of footsteps in his memory, the guards, the rumors code in his head. "Please, human." She whispered again. This time her voice cracked with pain. They will return soon, and when they do, they will find me. They will take me apart, piece by piece, and you, if they find you here. You will not leave alive either." Daniel's hand hovered over the panel, his finger trembling. He knew he had little time to decide. Run away now. Pretend he never heard the voice, or take the risk. Press the code and open the door. The silence stretched, broken only by the faint sound of her breathing. Daniel's eyes darted to the keypad. Then back to the door. His heart thundered in his chest. Finally, he exhaled. "All right," he whispered. His finger pressed the first button. A sharp beep filled the air, echoing down the empty hall. The door shuddered, as if waking from a long sleep. Lights blinked red, then green. Metal groaned. Gears turned. Daniel held his breath. The door was opening, and whatever was inside would soon be free. The heavy steel door groaned as it slid open. The air inside rushed out like a sigh that had been trapped for years. Daniel stepped back, shielding his face as a faint blue mist escaped the chamber. Cold and heavy, through the haze, he saw her, the girl who had called him. She was lying on the floor of a glowing glass cell, her body weak, her arms chained with metallic cuffs. Her skin shimmered faintly in the light, not like human skin, but soft, almost luminous. Her hair was silver, falling over her face. Her eyes large and bright, glowing faint blue, like two moons in the dark. She looked at him, and even in her weakness, her eyes pierced straight into his heart. "You came," she whispered, her voice soft but carrying an echo, as if two voices spoke at once. Daniel's throat went dry. He could barely speak. "You're real?" he muttered, his words trembling. The girl gave a weak smile, though pain shadowed her face. "Too real, human, too real for your kind to let me live free." Daniel's hands shook as he stepped closer. "What are you? Why were you locked in here?" he asked. The girl's gaze darkened. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if remembering something painful. "They call me many things. Subject, specimen, experiment. But I am not those names. I am Illyra, the last of my bloodline, her." Words carried weight, heavy and sad. Daniel blinked, his heart pounding faster. "The last of your kind?" he asked. She nodded slowly, the chains rattling against the glass. "Yes, human, the last. They took me because of my DNA, because what I carry inside me is not like yours. It can heal, it can grow, it can change. Your scientists wanted to cut it out, to use it, but they did not care if I lived or died." Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. The rumors were true. The government had captured something, someone, and hidden her here. But to see her with his own eyes, it was beyond anything he imagined. "Why me?" he whispered, stepping closer. "Why call to me, of all people?" Her glowing eyes opened wide, staring into him. "Because you listened, Daniel," she said softly. His breath caught. He hadn't told her his name. How do you know who I am?" Illyra's lips curved into a sad smile. "I can hear more than words. Human, I can hear thoughts, feelings, fears. I can see what lies beneath. I know you are not like the others. You are curious. You are searching for truth. That is why I called. And that is why you came." Daniel's chest tightened. Part of him wanted to believe her. Part of him screamed to run. "What if you're lying? What if freeing you is a mistake?" he asked. Her voice trembled, but her eyes did not waver. "Then I'd die anyway, trapped in this cage. But if you help me, human, maybe I live, maybe you live, and maybe your kind sees that not all outsiders are monsters." The chamber lights flickered, alarms buzzed faintly in the distance. Daniel realized the old system had awakened, and time was slipping away. "They'll be here soon," Illyra whispered, her voice urgent now. "If they find me freed, They will kill you, Daniel, and they will take me again. But if we escape together, I can show you what they fear, what they tried to hide. Daniel's mind raced. The weight of choice pressed. On him, he stared at the chains on her wrists, glowing faintly with electric locks. Can you walk if I free you? He asked. Elira nodded slowly. I am weak, but I will try. The chains drain my energy. Once they are gone, I will be stronger. Daniel knelt by the control panel, his hands shaking as he pulled at wires. His tools clinked softly in the silence. Sparks danced as he worked. Elira watched him, her glowing eyes filled with hope and fear. You are brave, human, she whispered. Daniel shook his head. No. Just stupid enough to listen, he muttered. The first cuff clicked open, falling to the floor with a heavy clang. Elira winced as the surge of power left her arm, her skin glowing brighter. Daniel moved to the second cuff, his fingers trembling as alarms grew louder in the distance. Hurry, Elira urged, her voice cracking. They are close. The final lock sparked, then released with a hiss. Elira gasped, her body glowing faintly as strength returned to her limbs. She stumbled, but Daniel caught her. Her skin was warm, almost burning, her pulse strange and fast. Thank you, she whispered, her breath close to his ear. You just saved more than me. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? But before she could answer, a loud crash echoed down the hall. The sound of boots, heavy and fast, growing closer. Elira's glowing eyes widened in fear. They are here. Daniel, they know. We must go now. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the dark corridor. As they ran, Elira stumbled, her body still weak. But even then, sparks of strange energy flickered at her fingertips, lighting their path. Behind them, red lights blared, alarms howled, and the sound of armored soldiers closing in filled the air. Daniel's heart pounded. Every instinct told him he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. But when Elira looked at him with those glowing eyes full of desperation and strange hope, he couldn't let go. He had freed her, and now her fate, and maybe his, were tied together. Asterisk. The sound of heavy boots thundered down the corridor, each step echoing like a countdown. Daniel pulled Elira forward, his heart racing. But the weight of what he had done pressed heavily on his chest. The facility had awakened. Red lights flashed across the walls. Alarms screamed in warning, and doors slammed shut one after another. He realized the building itself was becoming their enemy, sealing exits, cutting off paths, trying to trap them inside. Elira stumbled beside him, her silver hair clinging to her damp face, her glowing eyes darting around with fear. They are close, she whispered, closer than you think, and they will not stop. Daniel gritted his teeth, dragging her toward a side hallway. But as they turned the corner, the glow of red laser sights swept across the walls. Armed soldiers in black armor appeared, rifles raised, their voices booming. Freeze, don't move. Daniel's breath caught. He stopped in his tracks, his hands shaking. Elira clung to his arm, her body trembling. The soldiers advanced slowly, their visors shining with cold light. One of them shouted again, "Step away from the subject. Human, do not interfere." Daniel's eyes darted between the soldiers and Elira, his chest tightening. He had freed her, but now what? Should he surrender? Should he run? If he stayed, they would kill him. If he fought, he could die. The weight of choice crushed him. Elira's voice was urgent, almost pleading. Daniel, listen. If you let them take me, they will not stop. They will cut me open. They will use me, and when I am gone, they will come for you, too. Her glowing fingers twitched, sparks of strange energy flickering in her hands. The soldiers noticed, aiming their weapons directly at her chest. "Stand down," they barked. "Subject, deactivate." Elia's voice cracked with anger. "I am not your subject," she hissed, her eyes blazing. Daniel's heart hammered, his body frozen between two impossible choices. If he did nothing, Elira would be captured again. If he acted, he would become a traitor to his own kind. The leader of the squad stepped forward, his rifle steady, his voice sharp like a blade. "You, engineer, step away now, and you will live. Help us secure the alien, or you die with it." Daniel's throat went dry. His hands shook. The decision. Pressed harder, he glanced at Elira, her glowing eyes filled with pain and desperation. "Human," she whispered. "Choose. Choose now." The soldiers raised their weapons, red beams locking on target. Daniel's breath quickened. He felt trapped, suffocating under the weight of the moment. Then, in one desperate instant, his hand moved. He grabbed a loose pipe from the wall, swinging it with all his strength at the nearest soldier. The strike knocked the weapon aside. A shot blasted into the ceiling. Sparks raining down. "Run!" Daniel shouted, pulling Elira with him. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the walls. Alarms screamed louder. Elira's glowing hands flared. A wave of blue light rippled through the corridor, knocking the soldiers back like leaves in a storm. Daniel stared in shock. The power radiating from her made the air vibrate. The lights above flickered. For a moment, silence followed. Broken only by Elira's shaky breathing, she swayed, weak from the burst. But she still clung to his arm. "I cannot do that again." "Not without rest," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel nodded quickly. "Then we find a way out now." They rushed deeper into the facility, but every door was locking, sealing them in. The system was working against them, the alarms calling more soldiers to their location. Daniel's mind raced, his engineering instincts kicking in. "There's a control hub ahead," he muttered. "If I can override it, we can open a path." They turned into a small chamber filled with glowing screens and tangled wires. The hum of machinery filled the air. Daniel jumped to the console, his fingers flying across the keys, sparks leaping as he ripped cables and forced circuits. Elira stood by the door, her glowing eyes scanning the hall, her voice urgent. "They are coming closer. I can hear them." Daniel's breath came fast, sweat ran down his forehead. The console flickered, screens lighting with warning signs. He gritted his teeth, whispering, "Come on, come on." Finally, the system gave way. Doors across the wing unlocked with a loud hiss, the red lights flashing green. Daniel exhaled sharply. "Got it. We have a way." But before they could leave, Elira grabbed his wrist, her glowing eyes staring deep into his. "You chose me, Daniel. You chose to fight your own kind for me, but you must understand the choice does not end here." Daniel frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Her voice trembled, filled with sadness. "If you stay with me, you will never go back to the life you knew. Your people will hunt you. They will brand you a traitor. But if you leave me now, maybe you can still be safe." Daniel's chest tightened. Her words cut deep. She was giving him another choice, freedom for himself, or risk everything by staying with her. He looked at her glowing eyes, at the scars on her wrists, at the fear and hope mixing in her face. The sound of soldiers grew louder, heavy boots striking closer, voices shouting commands. Time was almost gone. Daniel clenched his fists, his heart hammering with fear and determination. He stepped closer. To Elira, his voice steady now. "I've already made my choice," he said. "I'm not leaving you." Her glowing eyes widened, a spark of relief flashing across them. Before either could say more, the door behind them exploded open. Soldiers storming in, rifles raised, shouting. Daniel pulled Elira through the opposite exit. Gunfire chasing them, the walls shaking from explosions. The path ahead stretched into darkness, filled with danger, but it was the only way. The choice had been made, and there was no turning back. The corridor shook as gunfire echoed behind them. Daniel pulled Alira through the smoke, his lungs burning, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The walls flickered with red warning lights, casting shadows that danced across Alira's glowing skin, her eyes bright with urgency. They sprinted down the narrow passage, their footsteps slamming against the metal floor. But the sound of armored soldiers followed. Closer, louder, unrelenting. Alira stumbled, her body weak. But Daniel caught her arm, forcing her forward. "Keep going," he shouted, his voice raw. "Don't stop," her glowing fingers sparked faintly, a sign that her energy was still drained from the earlier burst. I cannot hold them off again," she whispered, her breath sharp. "Not yet, not now." Daniel's eyes darted across the hall, searching for an escape. Ahead, the corridor split into two. One side dark and sealed by a heavy door, the other glowing with faint light. Without hesitation, he dragged her toward the glowing path, hoping the light meant safety. But as they entered, they froze. The room stretched wide, filled with suspended cables and humming machines. Massive storage pods lined the walls. Some cracked, others glowing faint blue, and inside them floated shadows, shapes that looked almost alive. Daniel's stomach twisted, his voice low. What were they doing here? Alira's eyes widened with horror, her glowing skin trembling. "They were trying to make more of me," she whispered, her voice breaking copies. "Experiments, but none survived. None were real, only suffering." Daniel stepped back, the truth hitting him like ice. The facility was not only a prison, it was a factory, a graveyard for failed lives. Before they could move, the sound of boots thundered closer. Shouts echoed from the hall, target inside. Secure now, the soldiers poured into the chamber, rifles raised, red sights glowing on their chests. Daniel's breath caught, panic rushing through him. They were trapped, nowhere to run. Alira clutched his arm, her glowing eyes fierce despite her weakness. "Trust me," she whispered. "Just trust me once more," before Daniel could answer. She raised her hand, sparks dancing at her fingertips. The lights in the chamber flickered, machines groaned, the air filled with a sharp hum. With a sudden surge, the pods along the walls shattered. Spilling glowing liquid across the floor, the shadows inside dissolved into mist. Filling the air with a thick fog, the soldiers coughed, their visors glowing faintly in the haze. Their shouts turning to confusion, Daniel pulled Alira, weaving through the mist as the chaos grew. Bullets tore through the fog, sparks flying. But the soldiers' aim was blind. Daniel ducked low, dragging Alira through the shifting mist, his body shaking. Her glowing hand guided them. A faint blue trail of light in the storm. They reached a side passage, narrow and dark, and slipped inside just as the soldiers regrouped. The hallway beyond was tighter, lined with pipes and broken panels. The sound of machinery deep beneath the floor echoed like a heartbeat. Daniel leaned against the wall, gasping for air. Alira collapsed beside him, her body trembling. "You saved us," he whispered, his voice heavy with awe. She shook her head weakly. "No, human. Only delayed them. They will not stop until I am gone." Daniel pressed his hand against the cold wall, his mind racing. Every door was locked, every path sealed. But somewhere in this maze, there had to be an exit. Alira's glowing eyes looked up at him, soft but determined. "There is a way. A transport tunnel below, but it is dangerous, more dangerous than the soldiers. Will you risk it?" Daniel clenched his fists, his heart still pounding. "I've come this far," he said. "I'm not turning back now." Alira gave a faint smile, then pointed weakly to a hatch ahead. Together, they pried it open, the metal groaning loudly, and climbed down into the dark. The tunnel below was cold, water dripping from pipes. shadows stretching endlessly. The air smelled of rust and oil. Machines hummed faintly, somewhere deep. Inside, Daniel steadied Alira as they moved, the floor shaking with distant vibrations. "What's down here?" he asked cautiously. Her voice was low, almost fearful. "Machines not made for humans, guardians built to protect what they hide. They will not let us pass easily," as if her words summoned it. The ground trembled. A deep, metallic roar filled the tunnel. From the shadows ahead, 2 red lights flickered, glowing like eyes. Daniel's breath froze. His heart pounding. Out of the darkness, a massive machine lurched forward. Its body armored with steel, its claws sharp like blades. It was a guardian, awakened to stop intruders. Alira's hand tightened on his arm, her glowing eyes wide. "This is the danger I warned you about, human," she whispered. "This is the true face of their prison." The machine stomped forward, the tunnel shaking with each step, sparks flashing from its claws. Daniel grabbed a loose metal rod from the ground, his voice shaking. "We don't have a choice. We fight or we die here." Alira's eyes glowed brighter, sparks gathering at her hands, her body trembling as she forced her power to rise. The guardian roared, raising its claws, the tunnel echoing with thunder. Daniel and Alira stood side by side, trapped between steel and death. There was no turning back, only forward into the unknown. The guardian's roar still echoed in Daniel's ears as he and Alira slipped through a broken maintenance hatch. Leaving the metallic beast behind in the dark tunnel, both of them collapsed in a small chamber lit only by the faint blue glow. From Alira's skin, Daniel's chest rose and fell with sharp breaths, his muscles aching, his hands still shaking from the fight. Beside him, Alira leaned against the wall, her silver hair sticking to her damp face, her glowing eyes filled with pain but also a quiet strength. For a long moment, neither spoke, the silence broken only by the hum of pipes around them. Then Daniel whispered, his voice rough. "What are you, Alira? What did they want from you so badly?" She turned her head slowly, her gaze locking on his, and for the first time he saw not just fear in her eyes, but sorrow, deep and endless. "You saw the pods, didn't you?" she asked softly, her voice carrying that strange double echo. Daniel nodded, the images flashing in his mind, the twisted shadows, the failed copies, the graveyard of experiments. "They were trying to make more of you," he said quietly. Alira closed her eyes, a faint shiver running through her body. "Yes, human. They wanted to take what I am and break it into pieces, to twist my blood until it bent to their will." Daniel frowned, confusion mixing with anger. "But why? Makes your blood so important?" Alira hesitated, her glowing fingers brushing across her arm, tracing the faint scars that lined her skin. "My DNA," she whispered, "it is not like yours. It carries memories, knowledge, healing, creation, destruction, all in one, if given. To the sick, it can cure. If given to the dying, it can restore. But if altered, if forced into weapons, it can burn. It can destroy entire cities, maybe even worlds." Daniel's eyes widened, the weight of her words sinking into him. "So that's why they wanted you," he whispered. "To make weapons?" Alira's voice cracked, her face shadowed with grief. "They said they wanted to protect humanity. But protection was only a word. Their true goal was power. Power over enemies, power over allies, power to decide who lives and who dies. And I was the key." Daniel clenched his fists, his stomach twisting. All his life he had believed in his people, in the mission of progress and safety. But now, looking at Alira's scarred wrists, at her glowing eyes filled with pain, he wondered. If everything he knew was a lie, "You said your DNA carries memories." Daniel whispered, "What does that mean?" Elira's gaze softened, though her voice trembled. It means I remember things not only from my life, but from the lives before me. Each child of my kind carries the memories of the ancestors. The knowledge of thousands flows through our blood. When my people were alive, it was our gift. Our way of keeping history alive. But when humans discovered it, they saw only tools, only data, only power to steal. Daniel's throat tightened. He looked away, guilt pressing into him, even though he was not part of those crimes. They tortured you for it, he whispered. Her silence was the answer, and it was heavier than words. For a moment, the chamber felt smaller, the air thicker. Daniel sat against the wall, his mind storming with questions. Could her DNA truly cure diseases? Could it truly destroy worlds? And if so, was freeing her the right choice? Elira leaned closer, her glowing hand resting weakly on his arm. You doubt me, human, she said softly. And you should. Trust is dangerous. But here, this your kind is sick. Not only in body, but in heart. Wars, greed, hunger. All of it. I saw it in the memories I carry. And yet, I also saw kindness, love, and courage. That is why I called you. Because I sensed those pieces in you, Daniel. Her words struck him harder than any bullet. He swallowed, his voice shaking. You think I can help you stop them? Elira nodded slowly. Not just stop them, but choose. If my blood is released, it could save billions. But it could also end billions. The choice of what to do with me is no longer mine. It is yours, human. Daniel's chest tightened, the weight of responsibility pressing down like a mountain. He wanted to protest, to shout that he was just an engineer, just one man. Not someone who could decide the fate of the world, but Elira's glowing eyes held him still, as if she saw deeper. Then his doubts, you chose to free me, she whispered. That was the first choice. Now greater ones will come, and you cannot run from them. Suddenly, a sharp buzz filled the chamber. The sound of machinery activating. Daniel jumped to his feet. Elira's eyes widened. They found us, she whispered, panic flashing across her face. The wall at the far end shifted, panels sliding open, and inside glowed a chamber filled with machines. Screens lit up with red warnings. Voices from hidden speakers echoed. Subject located. Containment required. Daniel's breath came faster. His hands trembling, he looked at Elira, her body weak, but her eyes blazing. You know the truth now, human, she said, her voice trembling with urgency. What will you do with it? Will you fight with me, or hand me back to them? The room shook as metal arms unfolded from the walls, reaching toward them like claws. Daniel's heart hammered, sweat ran down his forehead. This was no longer just about escape. This was about trust, about survival, about the future of both. Their kinds, and in that chamber, with the machines closing in, the secret of her DNA burned brighter than ever. A gift or a curse, a cure or a weapon, a promise or a threat. Daniel realized the real question was not what Elira was, it was what humanity would choose to become. The walls of the chamber shook as mechanical arms reached out, their metal claws snapping like jaws. Daniel swung a broken pipe, smashing one. Aside, sparks flying into the air, Elira raised her glowing hand, releasing a weak pulse of energy that stalled another. But her body trembled, her strength fading. The machines hissed, pulling back for another strike, their red eyes burning. In the dark, suddenly, Daniel's earpiece crackled to life. A cold, familiar voice filled his ear. Sharp and commanding. Daniel Reed, this is command. Do not resist. We are in control of the facility. Stand down immediately. And bring the subject to containment. This is an order. Daniel froze, his chest tightening. His own people, his commanders, they had found him. They knew where he was. Command. He whispered, his voice breaking. The voice came again, harder, sharper. You are interfering with a classified operation, engineer. Your actions are unauthorized and dangerous. Secure the alien now, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be marked a traitor. Alira's glowing eyes turned to him, filled with fear, her voice urgent. Daniel, don't listen. They will kill me. They will take my blood. They will never let me live. Her hand clutched his sleeve. Trembling, please, you know the truth now. Don't give me back to them. Daniel's breath came fast. Sweat dripping down his face. His heart pounded in his chest, torn between two voices, the voice of duty and the voice of the girl he had freed. The earpiece hissed again. Reed, listen to me. That creature is not your friend. It is dangerous, unstable. It will use you. It will destroy you. Follow orders, bring it in, and you will be rewarded. Resist, and you die with it. Alira's voice cracked. I will not destroy you, Daniel. I swore to you, I only want freedom. They fear me because I carry something they cannot control, but you chose to free me. Will you betray that choice now? Daniel's knees felt weak. His grip on the pipe trembled. He thought of his life before this. His job, his home, the quiet safety of obeying rules. If he obeyed now, maybe he could still go back to that life, safe, untouched. But then he looked at Alira. Her scars, her glowing eyes full of pain and hope. Could he really hand her back to the very people who had broken her? The machines hissed again, closing in. The voice in his ear grew louder. Harsher. Final warning, Reed. Secure the subject, or we open fire, and both of you die. Daniel's chest heaved, his mind spinning. Every choice pulled him in opposite directions. Obeying meant survival. Betrayal meant safety for himself, but doom for her. Defying meant danger. Exile, maybe death, but it meant keeping his promise. Alira's glowing hand reached for his, weak but steady. Her voice was soft now, almost breaking. If you give me back, I die. And you will never forgive yourself. But if you stay, if you stand with me, maybe together we can change this. Please. Daniel, I trust you, even if it costs me everything. His hand shook as he reached up. Pulling the earpiece from his ear, the commander's voice barked louder. Reed, do not disobey. Reed. This is treason. With a sharp motion, Daniel ripped the earpiece out and smashed it against the floor, sparks bursting as it died. The chamber fell silent except for Alira's weak breathing. Her eyes widened, glowing faintly brighter. You chose, she whispered, relief flooding her voice. Daniel tightened his grip on the pipe, turning toward the machines. I made my choice, he muttered. I won't hand you over. Not now, not ever. The mechanical arms lunged again. Daniel swung, smashing one aside, while Alira raised both hands. Forcing a surge of blue light through her trembling body, the machines shuddered, their systems flickering, their red eyes dimming. With a burst of sparks, they collapsed, falling silent at last. Daniel dropped the pipe, his arms shaking, his chest heaving. He turned to Alira, who leaned weakly against the wall, her glowing skin dim. You trusted me, he said, his voice low, so I'll keep fighting for you. Her lips curved into a faint smile. And I will fight for you, human, even if it breaks me. But before relief could settle, the floor rumbled and distant explosions echoed. Through the tunnels, a deep voice boomed over hidden speakers, colder than before. You have chosen treason. Reed, very well. There will be no return. No safety, no forgiveness. You will die with the subject. Daniel looked up, sweat running down his face. The facility itself had turned fully against them, walls shifting, doors locking, traps activating. Alira's glowing eyes met his, her voice calm despite the chaos. They will never stop now. Daniel, You broke their trust. You chose me over them. And that means only one path remains. Daniel clenched his fists, his heart steady despite the fear. Then we keep moving, he said firmly. Whatever waits ahead, we face it together. The chamber shook again, heavy footsteps echoing from the tunnels ahead, louder, closer. More terrifying than before, Illyra leaned on him, her glowing hand gripping his tightly. Together, she whispered, her voice steady despite her weakness. The lights above flickered red, alarms screamed again. And the shadows ahead shifted with new dangers. Daniel took a deep breath, tightening his hold on Illyra. He had made his choice, and there was no turning back. The tunnels shook as if the whole facility was alive. Walls groaning, metal doors slamming shut one by one. Daniel pulled Illyra forward, his grip tight, his body heavy with exhaustion, but his heart burning. With determination, every step echoed with the sound of soldiers behind them, shouts, boots, and the distant roar of machines powering up. They were running out of time. Ahead, the tunnel widened into a massive chamber, and at the far end stood a door unlike the others. It was tall, carved with strange patterns that glowed faint blue. The metal thicker, older, almost alien. Illyra's glowing eyes widened. Her breath catching the final door, she whispered, her voice trembling. Beyond it lies the outside, freedom, but it is guarded. Daniel's chest tightened. Guarded by what? He asked quickly before she could answer. The ground trembled, and from the shadows stepped a towering figure of steel. Its body gleamed with armor, its arms armed with weapons fused into metal, its head glowing with a single red eye. The guardian of the final door, larger and deadlier than any they had faced before. Illyra's hand clutched Daniel's arm. Her voice low and urgent. This is the last test. Daniel, if we fail here, we never leave, the guardian roared. A sound like thunder and grinding steel, its red eye locking onto them with a blast of energy. It fired across the chamber, the walls shaking as sparks rained down. Daniel shoved Illyra aside, the beam searing past them. Burning the floor, he picked up a piece of broken metal pipe. His hands trembling, but his eyes set with determination. We fight together, he said firmly. Illyra nodded, her glowing hands trembling as she summoned the last of her strength. Sparks dancing at her fingertips, the guardian stomped forward, each step shaking the chamber. Daniel charged, striking at its leg with the pipe, the sound ringing like a bell. The machine barely flinched, swinging its massive arm, sending Daniel crashing against the wall, pain shooting through his chest. Daniel, Illyra cried, her voice breaking. She raised both hands, releasing a burst of blue energy that slammed into the guardian's chest. The machine staggered, its red eye flickering, but it did not fall. Illyra gasped, her body shaking, her strength draining fast. Daniel forced himself to his feet, coughing, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He grabbed Illyra's hand, his voice rough but steady. Use me, use whatever you need. I won't let them take you. Her glowing eyes filled with shock and sorrow. If I take from you, Daniel, it could break you. You might not survive. I'll survive, he said firmly. As long as you do. Illyra's hands trembled, but she placed them over his chest. Blue light surged, flowing between them, her body glowing brighter as his strength drained. Daniel gasped, his knees weak, but he held on, refusing to fall. Illyra rose, her entire body blazing with light, her silver hair flowing like fire, her eyes burning bright. The guardian roared again, raising its weapon, but Illyra unleashed a wave of pure energy. The chamber shook, walls cracking. The machine staggered as its armor melted, its red eye shattering in a burst of sparks. With a final scream of metal, the guardian collapsed to the floor. Silent, The air was thick with smoke and light. Silence heavy after the chaos. Illyra fell. To her knees, her body dim, her strength fading. Daniel rushed to her. Catching her before she hit the floor, her glowing eyes fluttered weakly, her voice soft. "You gave me your strength." "Why?" Daniel smiled faintly through the pain. "Because I chose you," he whispered. "Because you deserve to be free." The final door loomed before them, its blue patterns glowing brighter now. As if recognizing Illyra, she raised a weak hand toward it, and the patterns shifted, gears turning, locks breaking. The massive door groaned, opening slowly. Light spilling through the cracks. Beyond it lay the unknown freedom, or danger, or perhaps both. Suddenly, Daniel's communicator, cracked but not destroyed. Sparked to life again, the commander's voice hissed through static. "Read, if you cross that door, you will never come back. You will be hunted. There will be no home, no family, nothing. But if you stop now, bring her back, we can forgive. We can still save you." Daniel froze, Illyra's glowing eyes on him, weak, but steady. "Don't listen," she whispered. "Freedom lies ahead. The truth lies ahead. But only if you choose me. Choose us." His heart pounded, his mind torn once again. On one side, the door to freedom. Illyra's hope, the unknown. On the other side, the voice of his people, the life he once knew, the safety of obedience. The choice hung heavy. Sharper than any blade, Illyra's hand gripped his weakly. Her voice soft but clear. "Daniel, this is the last door. Once you cross, there is no going back. So choose human. Walk with me into freedom. Or turn away and let me die." The light from the final door spilled across Daniel's face. He took a deep breath, his chest burning, his heart steady, his eyes locked on the door. Then on Illyra. Then back again. The shouts of soldiers echoed in the distance. The commander's voice demanding his obedience. Daniel stepped forward, pulling Illyra. With him, the final door groaned wider, the light growing blinding. And as they crossed the threshold, the chamber shook. Alarms blaring, soldiers shouting, the commander screaming in fury. The light swallowed them. The door slamming shut behind. Silence followed. The fate of Daniel and Illyra lost beyond the final door.